All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the latest episode of the Dads and Ed podcast, the pre-Valentine's Day edition. My name is Josh Allen. I am the tech integrationist at Lewis Central Community Schools. 4 wonderful kids, one who just turned 9 over the weekend, and beautiful wife who gets to claim the spot for my dad moment of the week here pretty soon. So,
nice.
Oh yeah, it was spectacular. So please be joined as always. Devin, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Devin Schoening, K-12 Instructional Technology Program Lead in Council Bluffs, Iowa. I have a lovely wife, Erin. My 2 kids, whose birthdays are quickly approaching, have a teenager soon. I think we talked about that last time, but Claire will be 11 here soon, and Gracie will be 13 in a couple of weeks. So, man, kids are growing up fast. I probably have shared on here before, but I remember being a younger person and having some older people tell me, enjoy your kids. They grow up fast. And I always thought, what do you mean? Everybody grows up at the same rate. Time is time. And now looking back, it's like, where did that time go? That was a quick 13 years. So,
absolutely, Brent.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Brent Catlett here. Technically tonight, live from St. Louis, Missouri. Technically, if you want to get real technical, St. Charles, but essentially in the St. Louis area, gateway to the west. I am at the METC conference, which is Missouri's EdTech conference for the state. And it technically started today, but my colleague and I just drove down, and we are here for the sessions that begin tomorrow. Today was the kind of pre-workshop kind of stuff. So anyway, excited to be here. Brent, I have a beautiful wife, just like Josh, and she's amazing, supporting our kids at home for the next 3 evenings, which I quite honestly feel terrible about. And my little guy will turn 2 on Saturday. My youngest little guy, which is kind of crazy to think about where those 2 years went, as well as all the way up to 10 years old. And I'm accountable for 5 kids. And not sure how I got there, but,
Well,
so anyways, and you mentioned pre-Valentine's.
We don't need to get, let's not get technical about how you got there.
Yeah. You mentioned pre-Valentine's, and so there was a moment I had earlier this week where I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be gone on Valentine's Day. And then it led me to a blog post. And I wrote about the fact that I'm not a huge fan of Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
I'm just not. And I actually have gotten some readers, females, all females, have responded to me and said, spot on, Brent, love the post, would much rather my husband be loving on me all the time versus this commercialized thing that is Valentine's Day. And I'm just thankful that I'm not on a complete island and trying to, I was like, I'm not trying to be a bah humbug here, but I don't agree with it. And I just think that we commercialize this situation for husbands and boyfriends and fiancés to have to come through with this amazing romantic gift for their wives or significant others. And there's like this huge pressure on us men, and I don't agree with it. So I'm thankful my wife is on the same page with me, right? In the sense of like, hey, take care of me all the time, and let's not necessarily get in a dither about Valentine's Day. So that's my take. You can read my blog post, but I think I articulated myself as best I could without getting too crazy.
Well, I think you're right. I mean, I'm lucky to have a wife that doesn't necessarily get all up in arms about things like that. I think our big Valentine's night tomorrow is we are having my girls basketball players out for team dinner. We play our game on Wednesday, so we are getting heart-shaped pizzas from Papa Murphy's, and we are having my girls all bring out either a nice note for each of their teammates or a Valentine. So we're gonna celebrate as a family and a basketball family tomorrow.
That's cool.
Yeah, it should be fun.
I worry about it, like even for my daughter, in the sense of I don't know. I do again. I just think you walk into a store right now and you're inundated with it, and how many guys are out there buying whether it be flowers or whatever, just the kind of typical chocolates and things. And maybe some are going extravagant and buying diamond earrings and just because it's Valentine's Day, like,
I'm with you.
I don't know. That's just
totally with you.
I know we could get some hate mail for this, dadsemail.com, but any female listeners are out there, but I'm just saying that I've chased it. Like, I've tried doing good stuff for my wife, and I'm just kind of thankful that we're both in a place now where it's not about me coming through. Because I had this moment of panic. Like, honestly, I'm a one day at a time guy, and I wasn't looking that far ahead. And I'm like, I look at my calendar and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to METC next week, and it's Valentine's Day. And I'm thinking, oh great, no, I'm going to be judged on this one, and thing at all for my wife. And I was just thankful that was the case, and we kind of had a nice conversation. She proofread my blog post, just for the record, and she agreed upon me posting it, because I was like, are you okay with me saying these things? Because I've tried with my blog to just kind of unleash this thing that I put on myself about worrying about what others thought about what I blogged.
Yeah.
And so far so good for myself on that. But
yeah, you've been doing a good job of blogging lately.
Yeah. Well, it's like, last year or whatever it was, you did your dad one, and I love that. I just kind of put the pressure on myself to try to do one a week. That's been my goal. And so far I've been okay with it, but I'll probably have my dog days at some point where I got nothing, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to share your Valentine's Day plans, you can do that with the show at Dads and Ed. If you want to go ahead, I mean, stores are ready to put out the St. Patty's Day stuff too, and maybe 4th of July. So if you want to, you can do that anytime. Tweet the show at Dads and Ed. Use the hashtag Dads and Ed. Email Brent Catlett no, I'm just kidding. Email us, dadsanded@gmail.com. If you missed part of the show, check out our fancy website, dadsanded.com. You can either watch the show, or you can, the audio files are in the right-hand column. You can also subscribe in iTunes or Google Play just by searching Dads and Ed. Click the subscribe button, and it will be automatically sent to you after we're done. We are also a proud member of the Education Podcast Network. You can check out all of the great podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com. Well, as you guys were talking about Valentine's Day, I thought I was going to be creative. Moving on to the dad / in my case, husband of the week. I thought I'd be really creative and I always get my wife and the girls flowers. That's kind of just the not over the top, just whatever they have. And so I thought I would get them today, because I thought, number one, I'm going to skip the line tomorrow for everyone who forgot. Number two, I had a little bit of time tonight. Plus, then I can just come home after work tomorrow. We actually do like heart-shaped food, all that kind of stuff, just something different. So I go buy flowers. I buy a dozen for the wife. I buy a dozen for the girls. I have the lady even like separate out the girls as dozens, so they each get their own little 4 roses, I walk in, flowers in hand, ready to be greeted by my beautiful wife and my beautiful girls. First thing my wife says to me, "Today's not Valentine's Day." I'm like, I know. Surprise. Oh, okay. I thought, she goes, "I just thought you didn't know what day it was." I'm like, no, like I thought this was going to be good. Like I thought like it's going to be a surprise. And she thought I just didn't read the calendar right. But
she
I don't
knows
know if there's
well.
like, well, that's, I was trying to think if there was precedent for that. I don't really know that there is. Like I thought, hey, I'll get them Monday night. You got them all day Tuesday. Then you don't have to wait till like 3:00 on Valentine's Day. You got them, first thing in the morning. No, it's wrong day. Today's only the 13th. Like, man, I tried. Whatever. All right, Brent.
I was gonna say, you could always send her my blog post if you want me to give me my email. I'll definitely send it to her tomorrow with a nice message, wishing her a happy Valentine's Day. So for me, we got a little fella who's 3, pushing on 4, somewhere in there in August, I think he turns. And the little guy, we've just had quite the issue with getting this kid to go number 2 on the toilet. And number 1's been fine, like he's always kind of been all about it, but for whatever reasons there was some anxiety or something with number 2. And just recent, so we bought like a bag of goodies, just little sticker things and some treats and toys and things he could pick from, little Matchbox cars. And just recently, like this week, he started going number 2, and it's just been glorious for our household because we, for a long time, just thought it was never going to happen. And so I'm hopeful that the momentum keeps trucking while I'm down here away from the family for a couple nights. And when I got home today, briefly before I left, he was bragging on how he did it again. And so I'm just excited. It's kind of cool to see a little guy he could be kind of a quiet kid, and he's very active with his brothers and sisters. But anyway, so I was a proud dad. I'm just kind of glad that maybe we're turning that leaf, and that would mean one less that I'm buying diapers for, which will help in the long run with my pocketbook, because that only puts me down to 1 more left. Right. I feel like I've had diapers in my life for 10 years, which is true.
Yes.
Well, you divide 10 by 5.
Yeah.
Right. And at the rate you've had kids, you're going to go right from diapers for them to diapers for you. I mean, by the time that last one's out of diapers, you're going to be ready for diapers, aren't you?
Yeah. That's for sure. Ain't getting any younger, that's for sure.
Well, see, I didn't say that. That's not what I was saying. You said it. So my dad moment of the week is something I'm really proud of too, and I think as we have kids, all of us have kids. You sometimes can look at your kids when you're young. Maybe you think you know what they're going to do, or you think you know what they're going to like, or you think you know what they're going to be interested in. And Grace she just participated in her first show choir competition this past Friday. And it is not something that I necessarily thought she was going to be in when she got into middle school, but she has kind of totally thrown herself into that world, and they actually won that competition on Friday. So pretty proud of her. I wasn't able to get there because of basketball practice, but man, it's pretty cool to see that, even though it's not something I would have guessed, a few years ago that she would be doing. So pretty cool stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's that time of the evening when we class up the place a little bit, and we are ready to do that. We are pleased tonight to be joined by Alvin Irby. Tonight, Alvin is unofficially sponsored by Kleenex, the unofficial tissue of the Dads and Ed crew. When kids reach for their boogers, parents reach for Kleenex. Get them pretty much anywhere you buy anything. So, Alvin, welcome to the show.
Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing?
Not much. We are so thrilled that you are able to join us. You're a former kindergarten teacher, now a comedian, author, founder of Barbershop Books. How in the world do all of those things come together in your world?
For me, I feel like I've been fortunate enough to kind of make it all kind of just work. I have been doing stand-up comedy for the last 7 years. Even when I was in the classroom, I was still performing. And I feel like comedians, we find humor everywhere. It really doesn't matter what we're doing, whether that's a classroom, walking down the street, riding on the subway. Humor is really just in every circumstance that we find ourselves in. In terms of education, my mom was a teacher in the Little Rock School District for over 30 years. And, I honestly never thought I would become an educator, but, sometimes life has a way of taking you in directions you might not have even anticipated. Now I can't even imagine, really doing anything else. But Gross Greg, my new children's book, really just came out of a lot of my experiences as a kindergarten and first grade teacher, where I saw, a lot of the children's books that featured, Black children. A lot of them were about really serious topics like slavery and civil rights, which are important. But I mean, that shouldn't be any child's introduction to a group of people, them in some oppressed kind of situation. And, lots of the books that boys love to read are often humor books, books that make them laugh. Scholastic recently did a survey where they surveyed thousands of children, and they asked them, what's the number one thing that you look for when choosing a book? And the number one thing was a book that will make me laugh. That's what kids said. And so that's really what Gross Greg is about. For those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about, I wrote a children's book called Gross Greg about a kid who loves eating his boogers.
And of course, yeah. Can teaching kindergarten is probably one of the harder things to do. I've been in lots of kindergarten classrooms here. My wife used to teach kindergarten. Can you talk about, before we get in, because I think it will lead directly to some of kind of these things about the book and also maybe your stand-up comedy at this point, but can you talk about the grind of being a kindergarten teacher every day in a classroom with a bunch of 5- and 6-year-olds?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, think that kindergarten is just kind of coloring and maybe cutting and pasting. But I can assure you that in 2017, it's a whole lot more than that. For me, we're talking about, for some children who haven't been to preschool, you're teaching them letters, you're teaching them letter sounds, you're introducing them to the world of reading, and all the while laying the foundation for what school is. So, as a kindergarten teacher, you're in a very kind of, amazing kind of situation to be able to really help kids understand what school means, what learning means, and hopefully helping them to develop positive attitudes about school, about learning, and that sort of thing. But I would say, some of the big challenges, I mean, I remember for me teaching kindergarten, I mean, trying to get 20-something 4- or 5-year-olds to go to sleep at the same time. It really requires some kind of special fairy dust or like to get kids. And even more difficult is waking up 20-something 4- and 5-year-olds to get ready to learn. But it really is an amazing, amazing job to be able to be a part of children's early kind of academic or learning experiences. I remember one moment that really stands out for me. I remember I studied at Bank Street College of Education, and I remember taking an art class there, and I remember them specifically talking about the importance of giving children primary colors when they paint. And I hadn't thought about it until it came up in this class, but they talked about the importance of giving children the opportunity to discover things. And so they were talking about, if you give kids, green, well, then you actually steal their discovery, right? Of mixing blue and yellow together and seeing that happen before their eyes. And so I had an opportunity in kindergarten to actually be a part of really creating these type of transformative learning experiences for children. So, I definitely would say that, kindergarten is a magical time. It's definitely a trying time, especially for children who, their school experiences are quite limited. It can be a real challenge. I just noticed that my computer battery is struggling right now because I don't have my computer plugged up. So you all can ask your next question. Just give me 1 sec. I'm going to plug in my computer. Technology.
Oh, man. Well, hey, while he's doing that, I do want to point out, if you go to our website, dadsanded.com, you will see the link for his book, Gross Greg, on there. So feel free to click on that. What I think is cool, and I know, we had John Spencer on a while ago who does who wrote the Wendell, the World's Worst Wizard.
Yep.
both of those books, if you buy the hardcover version, you get the Kindle version too, which I think is always cool to have that flexibility. So I think that's a great thing to do.
Yeah,
With
agreed.
Alvin, with Gross Greg, and being about a kid's fascination with, oh, look at this. Nice, well timed. For those of you listening on the podcast, Alvin just happened to have a copy of Gross Greg right there. As a former kindergarten teacher, was this just a case of write what you know about? And like you said, just write your experience?
Yeah, so I definitely tell people that Gross Greg is not autobiographical.
I shouldn't have taken a drink at that point.
But I mean, it's definitely inspired by kids. I know. I mean, teaching kindergarten, Gross is really nothing. People ask me, because I've taught first grade as well. What is the difference between kindergarten and first grade? I would say in kindergarten there's a lot more bodily fluids and things that you experience or see or whatever in kindergarten for sure. But Gross Greg, it really just came out of me wanting to write a story that was just about a kid being a kid, and something that I felt like would make children laugh. And, especially boys, gross, silly stuff is something that, really boys really kind of gravitate to. And so that was really what Gross Greg is about, is, getting kids and parents and other people to just see a kid being a kid and having fun and laughing, and letting kids know that, it's okay to like view reading as fun or silly. It's okay.
Hey, Alvin, thanks for taking some time to be with us tonight. We appreciate it. I know one thing we want to get into with you is just, where did the idea of the barbershop books come from? Tell us a little bit more about that.
So barbershop books really kind of came about from an experience I had when I was teaching first grade in the Bronx. And so, I was teaching, and there was a barbershop across the street from my school. And so one day I, went to go get a haircut after school. One of my students came in, and he was just kind of sitting there staring out the window with his bored look. And I said to myself, he really should be practicing his reading right now. And so it was at that moment that I said, someone should put little reading spaces in barbershops. You can go on with your next question.
So a follow-up would then be, how many barbershops are you in right now around the country?
So we are currently in about, I would say, just under 50, and that's in 12 states, 12 cities, and the barbershops that we have are really from a combination of different kind of community partners, whether that be individuals who said, hey, I just want to sponsor this for my grandbaby's barbershop that he goes to, or it was actual school districts or council, kind of city council boards who decided, we want to partner to sponsor this for some of the barbershops in our city, as well as churches. We've had churches who said, hey, we want to sponsor reading spaces in 4 barbershops in our city. And so, we really are open to, at Barbershop Books, collaborating with anyone really who's interested in creating more reading opportunities in the community, specifically those who would, kind of help boys identify as readers. And that's really, at the core of Barbershop Books.
Well, and I think it's such a unique idea. In terms of where, understanding that there are spaces all over our communities that could be turned into places to promote reading. You mentioned that you were in the barbershop, and a student came in and kind of, you thought, man, that seems like a great place for reading. Do you notice that are the communities that these barbershop books are in now? Do they have anything in common? Like, I'm trying to think about the places that I have here, and I'm thinking about where I would go and get my hair cut, or barbershops around here. I think, man, what a cool idea. Like, we even kicked around the idea of, we would try and put one in somewhere around here, but I don't know where the idea kind of came from. Like, I wouldn't even have thought that was a place to put a reading
Well, I think
space
for
like
me, it was probably a kind of perfect storm, right? I was a first grade teacher at the time, in the Bronx. I was in a barbershop. I've spent quite a bit of my time in barbershops. I mean, I would say like most black kids or black men I know, usually, if they have a low haircut, they go to the barbershop unless they cut their own hair at least once a month, many of them twice a month. And so in the black community, this is like a kind of ritual or routine that's a part of the culture and something that I'm very familiar with. And so me being in the barbershop, me being a teacher, and then having one of my students come in and me knowing his reading level and thinking, him just sitting here staring out the window for 15 minutes, he could have spent some of that time like reading a book. And then I kind of just, at that time, I kind of just wrote the idea down and kind of saved it in my Google Docs. And then years later, after having taught for several years and having been an education director, having had an opportunity to kind of look up, on this topic and see what was happening or what wasn't happening, I really decided, what, it's time to kind of make that idea of barbershop books a reality.
Well, Alvin, we want to let you know that in honor of you being on Dads and Ed tonight, we are going to make a donation to Barbershop Books. And we really hope that we encourage our listeners to do the same. On our website, under the video, there's a link to barbershopbooks.org. There's a donate button on the upper right-hand corner. And it says on the website, $10 is 5 new books that kids get to read. So hopefully some of our listeners will do the same. And you can see all the books, which I think is really cool about how you're, curate some of them. But we hope that we can do a little bit to help out what you're doing.
Well, thank you for having me and giving me the opportunity to kind of talk about, Gross Greg, which if anyone, wants more information about my book, they can go to grossgreg.com. It's available on Amazon. It's also available, through the website. I also have some fun Gross Greg math games. So there's addition, subtraction, fractions, and all boogers. You can add the boogers, subtract the boogers, even tell time with the boogers. But yeah, so there's lots of fun stuff you can do. And if anyone wants to kind of keep in touch with me, kind of know, what I have going on and where I'll be at, whether that's giving talks or doing stand-up, they can just find me on social media at Alvin Irby, ALVINIRBY.
And we have the link to the Amazon for Gross Greg, but I will add in the website because I didn't know about that. So I'll put that in. I don't know that there's anything better than doing math with boogers. And not having to wash your hands afterwards either.
Yeah, we definitely want kids doing math with the virtual boogers for sure.
Not real ones.
I think
not pulling your resources together.
Yeah, most parents would probably prefer the virtual boogers for sure.
Alvin, we appreciate your time and we wish you best of luck. And we look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Thank you guys for having me. It was a pleasure.
Yep.
All right. Have a good night.
Thanks, Alvin.
All right, guys.
All right. And like I said, I will put the link to grossgreg.com. I did not know about the website, but that is one that I will be sending to my teachers tomorrow.
Yes.
To check that out. I know that our kids will love it. So what a great
cool concept. Awesome. The whole thing.
I was trying to think on the way into work today. I thought someone else in Omaha had done something similar, not on the large scale that Alvin's doing it, but the coming in and getting in this case, I think it was like a free haircut if you read a book or I don't remember what it was, but I mean, he's right on. That's where the kids are, and those are the kids that need to read more.
Well, and even just thinking about that's what, trying to get at is that there are so many of those spaces I think that we have around our communities that could be spaces just like that, just like that would have opportunities for kids to read or opportunities for kids to, engage in some learning and, to take an idea like that and kind of turn it into something real. It's pretty darn cool. I'm impressed by all that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
well,
go ahead,
I
Brent.
was I was just thinking, Devin, as you were talking and kind of asking that question to him, like, so true. And then my next thought went to how many barbershops or places where hair is being cut now are kids on phones.
Yeah.
And parents are handing them a phone. And if you had that kind of setup in those places that was encouraging reading instead, like we're all educators, and he has been, and that I was just really impressed with, like, his passion for kids reading. Like that's really cool.
Well, and I think that the other thing that was kind of cool, we started by talking about his time in the classroom to, I'm always impressed by, maybe not impressed is probably the wrong word. We have a really great preschool teacher in one of our buildings I can think of. That's a male. Is a young male preschool teacher who is just great, and he's as good as there is. I'm always, intrigued by those folks, especially young men who are in those professions, like kindergarten teacher, that are almost, almost all women. And gosh, it seems like such a cool thing.
I know our one male kindergarten teacher loves it when I walk in the building that he's not the only one that's there. So I also think. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, didn't it seem like he would have been a fun teacher to have as a kindergartner?
When you can say that your teacher ended up being a comedian,
yeah,
I mean, those days had to be good.
Yeah, that was awesome. He was very cool. I like him.
And I think one of the other things that I really like that he touched on is with Gross Greg having a funny, positive, minority main character in a book is huge. We don't have nearly enough of those.
Right.
And his point about your first introduction shouldn't be the oppression of that color of kid.
Yes.
I mean, I think it's great. So
great point.
I will, like I said, all the links will be on the website later tonight, the ones that I missed. So let us move on. Brent, do you have the book of the week?
Yeah. So those of you that follow me on the social media know I've become kind of an avid reader. So it was kind of cool. Again, just back to Alvin for a second there. But anyway, so I have a couple thoughts I wanted to share with you. I recently finished a book called Essentialism, The Disciplined Pursuit of Less by Greg McKeown. I blogged about this a couple weeks back and kind of broke down some of my takeaways, but really enjoyed that and have been trying to focus my energies. I had a staff meeting with my tech department today and even put a little presentation together for them about it with my main takeaways. And one of the things I'll point out now is just the ability to say no. And I have been guilty of kind of trying to do a lot and be involved in a lot and be at things. And so sometimes just being able to say no and is a good thing. And that's one of the things in the book, as well as sleep and focus and things. And if you really dig in on it and you say to yourself, like, hey, what could I do a little different that is just most essential? And perhaps that means I take some things out. At the end of the day, the bottom line is you'll be more effective. And I'm feeling already like I have released some things from my life and have said no and kind of backed my way out of a couple things that I was involved in, kind of, I'll call them extracurricular from my job. And I'm like loving it because I feel like I have so much more time to focus on things that are essential. So I would suggest you checking it out. And then I also want to share another one called The Entitlement Cure, Finding Success in Doing Hard Things the Right Way by Dr. John Townsend. And that is another one that I listened to the Entre Leadership podcast, and he was interviewed, and that's what led me to his book. And I really enjoyed it as well. I think all of us, if we admitted it, have a sense of entitlement. He calls it pocket entitlement at the minimum size of it, and then it can grow into larger scale where we, feel really entitled for certain things. And as I evaluated my life reading that book, I'm guilty of feeling entitled about some things at times, and people around me are. And so, again, another really good book to kind of just check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Nice. All right. Notice how Brent always brings books to the table, and Devin and I are just blog post guys.
Yep.
I am amazed at the amount that you read. I'm very jealous of a lot of people for a lot of things, but
I'm jealous of the amount of books you're reading too. I mean, it's like one of those things. I want to read that many books, and
they're not even picture books.
No, I know.
Yeah. Hey, I told Josh pre-show before we came live that I'm telling you, it's in the morning for me. Early morning has been a crucial time. I wake up fairly early when my littlest guy gets up, and then while I'm doing breakfast with him, I'm typically trying to chew up some chapters. So anyway,
if I'm being honest, that's the one thing I've for the last 3 years been trying to convince myself of, that that time early in the morning that feels so good laying in bed could really be used to read or write or exercise, or I don't know, a handful of other things that would be really good for me.
I will say my wife does a really good job. She gets up, does some reading, and then works out, and then she's usually done with that by 6:30, and then is showered by the time I leave at 7. And I've started getting up, but my reading is still more like consuming things from Flipboard, or it's not like a single topic of reading. It's a variety of stuff. But
right.
And honestly, you guys, I don't think that I considered myself an avid reader. And the ironic thing is, when I started my doctorate program, my first class was like a generic leadership class. And there were 2, maybe 3 books that we had to buy that weren't like textbooks. They were books, on leadership. Yeah. And that kind of hooked me. I was just kind of like, okay, I kind of like this. Like, I didn't realize. And then I was doing it for class, and then it kind of led me down a path of others. And so I'll admit to you that before my doctorate program, I was like you, Josh. I was just kind of reading on Twitter and some blog posts and articles I was seeing online. I wasn't chewing up as many books as I have now, but I'll admit that I've really enjoyed doing that. And I don't know, and it's helping me blog a little bit too, because I'm just fleshing out those thoughts for sake of my own reflection on them. So anyway, and I'm not doing anything better than you guys. It's something that I've enjoyed in finding some time. Like I said, I've carved out that time in the morning is really where I found my most success. Because quite honestly, if I lay down at night and try to read, I'll fall asleep reading.
I tried that once, and that's I don't know how people read something they expect to know in the next day. Like if it's like fictional or something, it's not a big deal, but to be able to recap something that you lay down, I don't get it.
Yeah.
All right, video YouTube. This kind of pretty much sums up the discussion we just had about how Brent reads books and I don't. So my clip I just tweeted out from the Dad's and Ed account and on the hashtag is Melissa McCarthy doing Sean Spicer on Saturday Night Live. Admittedly, I am a huge Saturday Night Live fan. Like in high school when they do those things, like where do you see these people in 30 years? Literally, mine was on Saturday Night Live. That's how I loved it. I grew up with Mike Myers and Dana Carvey and Chris Farley and all of that, and it's not been good lately. I think that regardless of who you voted for, Donald Trump winning the presidential election may be the greatest thing that has ever happened to Saturday Night Live, because they have something to talk about now for at least 4 years.
Yeah.
Or as they said the other night, maybe 2.
Maybe 2.
Which I thought was interesting. Having these, the Alec Baldwin and Melissa McCarthy coming in to play these characters is phenomenal. I read articles, and speaking of things I read in the morning, this morning was the Wall Street Journal had an article about how part of Trump's criticism of Saturday Night Live has been women playing the role of men. And so that's why Kate McKinnon played Jeff Sessions on Saturday night this week. And that's why Melissa McCarthy plays Sean Spicer. And that's why Melissa McCarthy posted an Instagram picture of her kissing her husband in Sean Spicer makeup.
I didn't see that.
So I'm not at all trying to start a political argument. I'm simply pointing out that Saturday Night Live is having a field day with it. My wife and I have a renewed interest in actually staying up, even if we have no idea who the host is, which typically happens, because the writers there are doing a great job of writing about it. My one drawback is that, and this is Karen Haase, who's a lawyer here in Nebraska, who does a lot of school law stuff. She said one time that the problem, not really the problem, the bigger issue now with social media is that the playing field is leveled for bullies. So when we were kids, before social media, the bullies were always the big bad people. Now it can be whoever you want. Yeah. So in this case now, Saturday Night Live has their own, way of broadcasting whatever they want. They can be just as big of a bully as Trump can be on his social media account. So while I don't know that it's setting a great example of how you treat people, I find it hilarious. And we'll continue to soak it in. I just think they are hilarious. So
it has been good. Do you see the story about Rosie O'Donnell potentially playing Steve Bannon?
Yes, I did see that. I think somebody did a comparison shot of those two, and it is ridiculous. Yeah, it's pretty bad when Rosie needs some more wrinkles. It's one of those things. I try to be good Christian guy, nice to everyone, but oh my goodness, when Saturday Night Live comes on, it's a guilty pleasure. It's so funny. I love it. I don't even I will sit through some of their bad sketches. I don't know, the Kellyanne Conway one I thought was a little over the top. I thought it was a little much. The throwing the knife at Jake Tapper I think was a little that might have crossed the line a little bit, but I do remember there was a discussion from past writers when Trump got hired that there needs to be someone writing to hold him accountable for what he's doing. Like that they make that their mission to make sure that part of the story is being told. And I think that the writers so far have done a really good job. So
yeah, I agree.
Anyway, that's my take. Brent wants to talk about essentialism. I can't even say the word. I want to talk about Melissa McCarthy being Sean Spicer.
We're good yin and yang, Josh.
That's right. The robotic podium that Sean Spicer had the other night was pretty funny. So,
yes, it was. That was hilarious.
All right, Devin.
Yeah, so I spent Saturday morning at our local legislative breakfast listening to our state senators and representatives talk about a lot of issues facing our state and our local communities. And there were many folks in attendance that morning. And the main issue on the docket was going to be the bill that's currently in the House that kind of guts collective bargaining rights for public employees. And while most people at this event were well behaved, there were a few outbursts from those in attendance. And even more concerning was this behavior from some of the legislators that were in attendance. And this interaction of public officials reminded me of just how important it is for all of us to remember the power of kindness, the power of empathy, the power of respect and compassion. More than any other time probably in my lifetime, I feel a need for more kindness. How many of us would it take to really make a deep impact? How many simple little things could we each do on a daily basis to promote kindness? I know I've been kind of challenging myself, and I challenge anyone who might listen to this to dedicate yourself to promoting and sharing kindness. I think we should all join in that endeavor and kind of making this world a kinder place.
Well done. Completely agree.
Good stuff, brother.
All right, we are back in 2 weeks. Remember, if you would like to check out Barbershop Books or order Gross Greg, go to dadsanded.com. The links are going to be there here shortly. So if you're listening to the podcast, they're already there. And we will see everyone on the 27th.